Assemblymember, I apologize about keeping you waiting, and I also want to say thank you for your patience with us as the Assemblymember has a very busy schedule today, going all through committees. I also want to take a moment to say thank you to the Assemblymember for working collaboratively with us. He and his team have been fantastic to work with. Thank you so much. The Assemblyman is going to have a bill up next week in committee. Very special family occasion. You're more than welcome to be able to talk about it. Very proud moment for the Bro family. And he will be with his son, but you get to witness the good senator from Orange County presenting on his behalf. And I do apologize, Assemblymember, there's going to be challenges with the senator, so as there always is. But this is a good bill that the Assemblymember is bringing forward. Sir, the floor is yours, and welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to thank you for personally being involved and helping me manage this through the committee, and for your staff as well. Mr. Chair and Senators, AB 2558 extends protections to voters and taxpayers by ensuring that any consolidation of the offices of Auditor Controller or Treasurer Tax Collector must be first approved by the voters. Additionally, the voters must be asked the question of whether this consolidated position will be appointed or elected. Mr. Chair, as I mentioned, I'll be accepting the committee proposed recommendation to ensure this bill does not interfere with the abilities of the boards of the 5 counties granted authority in existing law by striking the reference in Section 3. This bill will simply provide consistency to voters across the remaining California counties. As the Auditor Controller and Treasurer Tax Collector operate the check and balances in collecting and dispersing taxpayer dollars, these offices are indispensable with financial responsibility. Previous examples of consolidation have explicitly precluded voters from being asked to maintain the office as an elected official. This bill would add that clarity. Members, county residents and voters deserve transparency. This bill will help ensure that the money taxpayers put in the hands of local government is managed to the highest standards of integrity, professionalism, and impartiality. With that, I ask for your aye vote, and with me to testify is the Orange County Auditor Controller, the elected Eric Woolery.
Mr. Woolery, we welcome you back, sir. Thank you for hanging with us. It's always good to see you, sir. You have 2 minutes, and then we'll turn it over.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, for allowing me to speak again. My name is Eric Woolery. Along with the California Association of County Treasurers and Tax Collectors, I am a co-sponsor of AB 2558, and as the independently elected Auditor Controller of Orange County. Auditor Controllers are responsible for evaluating all claims and charges submitted to the county and for issuing all county payments. AB 2558 closes a unique loophole that only applies to consolidating the appointed Director of Finance, the elected Auditor Controller, and the elected Treasurer Tax Collector. In all 7 instances in the last 30 years where these types of consolidations were approved, the voters were not given the choice as to whether the consolidated office should be elected or appointed. There is no other county office in which existing law allows an appointed office to be combined with an elected office without requiring the voters to decide whether the office is elected or appointed. For example, the county clerk cannot be consolidated with an appointed office unless the consolidated office remains elected or the people have a separate vote to make the county clerk appointed. AB 2558 does not alter existing law regarding the ability of the Board of Supervisors to consolidate elected offices with other elected offices. This simply requires that if the Board of Supervisors wishes to consolidate elected offices with an appointed office of Director of Finance, then the voters must be able to decide whether the consolidated office is elected or appointed. The law already requires that switching an Auditor Controller from elected to an appointed requires a vote of the people, and it has the exact same requirement for the Treasurer Tax Collector. AB 2558 fixes the Director of Finance consolidation loophole that allows an end run around this requirement. Existing law requires that if a county wishes to have a controller function, it must be held by the auditor. However, the Board of Supervisors can abolish the controller function by a simple majority vote. AB 2558 ensures that if the controller function is going to be abolished from an elected auditor controller, it should only be done by a vote of the people of the county, not simply by 3 votes of the Board of Supervisors.
30 seconds.
In order to protect independence of county auditor controllers, I respectfully ask an aye vote on AB 2558.
And thank you again for traveling up today. It's good to see you, sir. Thank you for your work. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Karen Lang on behalf of the California Association of County Treasurers and Tax Collectors. This has been an item that they've wanted to pursue in legislation for several years, and we are very grateful that Assemblymember Bro introduced it. At large, really, there are two main functions that treasurers, tax collectors do. They collect the money on the tax bill, and they manage county dollars. Those are both functions that should be truly accountable to the voters. They believe that if you're going to change the structure of how their office works, that you should ask the voters first whether or not the voters want to forfeit their ability to call the tax collector directly when there's a discrepancy on their tax bill. Keep in mind that treasurer tax collectors do have to sell people's homes at a certain point. If they don't pay their taxes, they take their jobs very, very seriously, and they want to remain accountable to the voters. And if the Board of Supervisors wants to change that structure, they encourage the Board of Supervisors to put that question to the voters. And in addition, in preparing for the hearing on this bill earlier in the year, we took a good look at who's been proposed for consolidation, who's elected, who's appointed. And one other thing we wanted to point out, because I think it's worthwhile to note, is that of the elected treasurer tax collectors, there are still 44. And unlike any other trend in the country that we could find, there are more elected women treasurer tax collectors than there are men. And when you switch over to appointed, the opposite is true. And the last two treasurer tax collectors that have been looked at for consolidation are both women. And we think that's worthwhile to note because it's difficult, I think, for women to sometimes run and get elected to office. They're doing a great job in the treasurer tax collector world. We're proud of that fact, and so we wanted to observe it to the committee when you consider this legislation today, and we ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. We'd like to be able to see if there's anyone else in support. If you could please state your first and last and organization.
Mr. Chair and members, Matthew Seiberling on behalf of the State Association of County Auditors, also in support. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks for being with us today. Anyone else in support, if you could please advance at this time. Last call for support. We now would like to be able to see if there are folks in opposition. If you could please come forward. We're looking for those opposition. Ms. Lang, if you don't mind just making room. Thank you so much. Let us know who is going to kick us off. Our primary will have three minutes. Our secondary will have 2. If you don't mind just introducing yourselves and your organization. Ms. Jenkins, you're going to kick us off? Please, the floor is yours.
Chairman. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman and Senators, Amy Jenkins on behalf of the Orange County Board of Supervisors in respectful opposition to AB 2558. This bill undermines the local authority given to counties to determine their local governance structure. In this case, by removing the authority to determine whether consolidating elected offices of the auditor, controller, treasurer, tax collector, and director of finance is a necessary step to protect that county's interests. It not only undermines the authority of a county board of supervisors who are chosen by the voters to make such decisions in their best interests, it unnecessarily adds another cost of taxpayer dollars by requiring another local election. County boards of supervisors are an extension of state government, authorized by the state constitution with the responsibility of running county governments, setting county priorities, and maintaining a balanced budget. We are the payer of the last resort for our indigent population in need of health care and are responsible for delivering public safety and social services to our residents. Similar to the legislature, when our powers are limited, our jobs are made exponentially more difficult. Management of local government becomes more expensive and onerous, especially when you consider that Orange County receives the lowest amount of property tax allocation in California to serve a population of 3.4 million residents. This bill does not give any new authority to the voters, which does not already exist. Voters currently have input at the local level on a regular basis through public meetings where every aspect of county government is discussed, including the consolidation of county offices. They may always provide written or verbal testimony, meet with board members and staff. Should they disagree with a local decision, they also have recourse through the referendum process. In the past several years, there have been a number of bills that would impact local non-constitutional offices, bringing their authority closer to that of sheriffs, district attorneys, and assessors. This authority was granted by a statewide vote of the people with the passage of 3 separate statewide initiatives, not legislatively. AB 2558 would eliminate a local authority that provides flexibility for Orange County and other California counties. We urge you to reject this proposal that does not provide a local or statewide benefit, but does limit our ability to effectively govern. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jenkins. Dorothy, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members. Dorothy Johnson with the California State Association of Counties. My colleague, Ms. Jenkins, spoke to all of the issues that we also have serious concerns with. And when we're looking at our smaller rural counties as well, where efficiency is of critical importance, we feel this will only serve to uphold or, to interfere with actions that are under the purview of the Board of Supervisors. And just to reiterate, there's already extensive law that provides for public engagement, for voter engagement who can submit a referendum to stop an action by the Board of Supervisors. And again, the piecemeal approach by which non-constitutional officers have sought constitutional officer authority we think is inappropriate and should go to the voters directly for such authority to be granted. Also want to express my opposition on behalf of the urban counties of California who could not be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. I'm grateful. We'd like to be able to see if there's anyone else in opposition. If you could please come forward at this time. Anyone else in opposition? If you could please give us your first and last organization. Last call for those who are in opposition. Seeing none, let's bring it to committee to be able to have a conversation. We're going to turn it over to the vice chair. Then we're going to go to Mr. Morlock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of the comments that were made, I kind of want to chat a little bit about it because I think it is not truthful and inaccurate. One statement that was made that this gives no new authority to voters. Actually, it does, because currently the voters, the only way they can oppose anything the Board of Supervisors through a referendum. But you know how costly that is? No voters, especially in a county of Orange, where 3.1 million people, it's about 1.4 million voters, to put a referendum. No one has tried as an individual, and it's unfair to put that burden on the voter. So I have to say I disagree, and that's not a pathway for the voters. That's actually, you're crippling them. So don't tell me that's the way. I haven't been at the county for almost 8 years as a county supervisor. I understand the autonomy the Board of Supervisors needs. They're the one who deliver human services, health services that is needed. But when it comes to the finances, like the tax collector, the auditor, controller, they need to have the authority that they get to go to the voters. Because if they don't have the independence of that authority and they're beholden to the Board of Supervisors, especially, all due respect to the Orange County Board of Supervisors, but this opposition is purely, and I'm in the county, it's retaliation against an auditor controller. They refuse to allow him to have legal counsel just because he said, I'm not going to pay for all these millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars of mailers during campaign season, which is so wrong. And that's why there was a bill last year. I mean, when you have a Board of Supervisors who decides to play politics just because, it's wrong. Senator Morlock and I don't always agree when we were at the board. And actually, we don't always agree here either. But we never retaliate against an individual just because he or she did something that we disagree. When we disagree, we disagree. I mean, like I said earlier, the other comment, the other bill, is we had an auditor controller who, although was in agreement with us at the time, we still gave him the authority to hire his own legal counsel because he's an elected official who needs that authority and needs legal counsel away from our own legal counsel, because county counsel belongs to the Board of Supervisors. But outside that, we can tell, I mean, unfortunately, sometimes there are people, I mean, there are boards that tell legal counsel how to make sure that it comes out this statement. Or legal advice. And so this is a right bill. Let the voters choose. It's not taking away the Board of Supervisors the authority. It is actually just saying, hey, board, if you want to consolidate, go to the voters and present to us why the consolidation. Present to us your arguments why it should be. Then let's do it. I mean, I don't see why this is such a bad bill and the opposition you have against it. It doesn't take away the board at all. It allows the board, it actually forces the board to argue in front of the public and say, This is why we think it's a good idea. If the voter says yes, then it is, that's the voters. If they say yes, then the board gets to do it. But they should not have full authority just to retaliate against an elected official because they don't agree with something.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Senator Morlock, and then Senator Bell.
Mr. Chair, I've had the privilege for over a period of 20 years to hold two titles, one hyphenated, treasurer, tax collector, and then the other, Board of Supervisors. And the issue of appointed versus elected has been a debate that comes up probably every year. So prior to my coming to the county, I think it was 1990, the Board of Supervisors of Orange County decided it wanted to merge the clerk with the recorder. And so that was a vote done by the Board of Supervisors a long time ago, a lot of history, a long time ago. So we found Gary Granville running against Lee Branch. They had to both run for the same new position, and that was the office of clerk recorder, and Gary Granville was the successful candidate. But it was pretty clear to the public that the reason the Board of Supervisors merged the two was that, you know, you can be elected, but if you're not doing a good job, it reflects on the Board of Supervisors. And so that was the way that board addressed that particular situation. Having stepped into a county where it was in crisis, the bankruptcy was laid square at the feet of the supervisors. You know, there's a public that shows up and comes to the podium and starts chewing out the supervisors for the county having filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy. And then the supervisors were stuck. They said, well, we can't control an elected treasurer who's, you know, doing his own thing, but yet that treasurer gave reports to the Board of Supervisors, so the board knew exactly what Mr. Citron was doing, but the focus was the Board of Supervisors, because that's where the public could go. And the supervisors even decided to do nightly meetings so the public could show up. You know, so those weren't pleasant. Those weren't pleasant experiences. So we had to deal with it too. Senator Lynn and I had to deal with a public guardian, public administrator that kind of went, you know, off the reservation. That is an office that is half elected, half appointed. So someone said that doesn't occur. It does occur. And so we had to go through the drill of requesting that the elected office be discontinued and just become appointed. That didn't pass. The voters will keep elected positions. They want that. They tried to eliminate the treasurer tax collector as an elected position in 1995 after the bankruptcy in a big ballot measure with all kinds of fixes. The voters turned that down too. They want to have their elected representatives, but we've got to let managers manage. And I'm disturbed by this bill because I think the supervisors have their ability, and one witness used the term in-run, and I see this as an in-run, because I got a lot of small little counties that have merged these positions for cost reasons. So I heard one argument that less females. Well, when Fresno County did it, we had a female treasurer, tax collector, auditor, controller, and I don't see Fresno as a supporting on my list. They seem to have managed quite well with that modification, that merger. So I'm not comfortable, Mr. Chair, with this bill. You know, everything would be great if the electeds were more qualified than the appointeds, but sometimes you get a rogue elected. I had it with my successor. My successor started investing in product that started losing money, and he started drifting all over the place saying, I'm going to change this, and I'm going to take down levers, and I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. We're going, wait, that's not your job. You know, so I think as a team, everything works well when the electeds are working well with everyone else. This shows that there's a problem somewhere, and it's now surfaced here, and I don't know why we have to run to Sacramento to fix local problems. That's why I have some discomfort, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. We're going to go to Senator Bell, and I think we're going to go back to the Vice Chair.
Well, all these jobs in our county are under the jurisdiction of the county executive, so we don't have any of these elections in Santa Clara County. So we also don't, we appoint the chief probation officer, the Board of Supervisors does. We appoint the head of Department of Corrections, county supervisors. So not the sheriff. So we have more a centralized control model than most counties. We have a pretty high bond rating. I think we're exceeding Orange County.
Oh.
You know why? It's because we're not there anymore.
We have a high rating, thank you. We have, that's good for you.
Well, I'm just making a point to you. So everybody does it, everybody scrambles their eggs differently is what I'm kind of saying here. So I hope that, you know, the bill to prevent consolidations, I would say it's not a concern for our county because we're not even involved in this discussion, okay? The concern I have is, like, can you maybe answer the question about these smaller, distressed counties that basically don't have any money, that are, we want to protect the fiscal conditions of those, and how will this bill affect that situation? I think consolidating some of the jobs might be the way they want to do it, to have more control, have more accountability that way in one job. I mean, there's a lot of reasons in terms of good management practices to have a more centralized model like our county does, maybe in a small county. I mean, so I'm kind of wondering, maybe one size doesn't fit all kind of here is my comments. So maybe you can have.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Bell, for the question.
that.
So this
I was
doesn't,
a county supervisor for 12 years.
yeah, I know there many of the senators up here were county supervisors.
Yeah.
This bill doesn't limit any action by the Board of Supervisors. They can still consolidate these offices. It just needs to be reaffirmed by a vote of the people. Because what we've seen in Orange County, and the vice chair outlined the history of it very well, very truthfully. And so then we come up with stories. County supervisors move to cut one watchdog, defang another. Supervisors move to take away independent oversight. And so you could have 3/5 of the county eliminate a position of the gentleman to my right who's elected by the entire county and receives 75% of the vote on June 5th. So we are just, they can still do this. They need to make the case to the voters. They still have the power to consolidate, make the case, but the voters need to reaffirm it. The other issue that's not clear in the law is when they do this, do you want to make it appointed or elected? So the second question would be, do you affirm the move by the board? Second, do you wish this to be an elected or an appointed position moving forward? So that's what the bill does.
Thank you so much. Please, Mr.
And just to your point, Senator, this could potentially, of course, uphold that decision or stop that position from coming forward. So the Board of Supervisors could decide we really need to, for fiscal reasons, consolidate offices, but if the voters don't approve it, they would be prohibited from doing so.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted I'm sorry, are you done, Senator Bell? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to add to the comment made earlier is that, you know, what Senator Morlock cited, the previous treasurer before him, he ended up in jail. So, you know, I think, you know, since then, though, you know, we still need these individuals to be independent. And if they are already an elected, not affecting counties that are appointed, there are positions that are appointed and ought to be, and I'm not in disagreement with that, but I think that this is right now where you see all these bills coming forward is you got to look at where the root of the problem is. And unfortunately, you know, if you look at it deeper, it's right there in front of all of us. And we've all been up here watching it and just very frustrated. And so I do appreciate the Assemblyman putting forward this bill. And I think it's the right bill because it does give the voter the opportunity to make the decision. And if the voter says that, you know, let's say if the board says, well, financially we need to consolidate, and the voter said, no, we actually still want it to be independent, the voter's paying for it at the end of the day because the county government exists only by the voters and the taxpayer. And so the voter says that it's important enough for us to have them to be an elected official and accountable to us. I think the voter should have that right. And for that, Mr. Chairman, I move the bill.
Thank you so much. We do have a motion on the floor. I'll just be very quick. As Mr. Obernolte is enjoying the conversation, I'm sure, along with Mr. Chu. Look, you're going to find a trend in this committee and with myself is that when there is an option for the voters to decide, we're going to preserve that option and or expand it. And understand that it could be challenging. And as a former member of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors, and Mr. Chu was there in San Francisco, you have 4 of us that were all on the Board of Supervisors. It does take authority away from the board. And I do think the voters know better than us. And that words like efficiency means it is cheaper for the county and not great for the board, because no Board of Supervisors ever wants to be able to give up their authority on these positions. And at the same time, though, this is an extremely important position. It's an important decision for the voters to better decide. And know that when we had a police shooting, an officer-involved shooting in Sonoma County. And candidly, the sheriff did not want to talk. And where did they end up? The Board of Supervisors chambers. And it's part of the job. And if there is a mistake made on an auditor, controller, tax collector side, and that individual who is elected doesn't want to talk, they're going to end up with the Board of Supervisors. And it's candidly part of the job, because that board will still have budgetary authority over that office as well. So with that, I'm going to be supportive of the bill. I do want to absolutely say thank you to the opposition, because both are very committed and very grateful. And do say thank you to the Assembly member, and you are welcome to close, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I want to publicly thank you and your committee for working with me on this bill and the accommodation for this week and for next week with Senator Morlock.
We apologize about next week.
Hopefully he brings it home.
Yeah.
But senators, thank you for the discussion. And I think this isn't so much a consolidation issue. I think you're talking about 2 very important offices at the county level. You're talking about the treasurer tax collector that protects our property taxes, a very important source of revenue. And then you're talking to a watchdog auditor a position who's charged with making sure we have good governance on the county level. So I think the 2 positions we're talking about here are different than some of the other ones, and that's why we felt a need for this bill, just to clarify across the state the will of the people, and respectfully ask your aye vote.
Thank you so much, sir. Roll call vote, please. Ms. Lanchester, this is a due pass as amended to the floor.
McGuire?
Aye.
McGuire, aye. Wynn? Wynn, aye. Bell? Hernandez? Aye. Hernandez, aye. Hertzberg? Lara? Morlock? Morlock, no. You have a 3-1.
This currently enjoys a 3-1. We're going to keep the roll open as well. Mr. Bro owes Mr. Obernolte into sandwiches. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator.
Thank you. We're now moving on to Mr. Obernolte, and we're very grateful that the Assemblyman is here. On AB 2329, Mr. Assemblyman, this enjoys bipartisan support. We're going to ask you to be able to offer up a truncated version of your statement. Thank you so much for your patience. We're grateful that you're here, and the floor is yours, sir, with bipartisan support.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we all are aware, California special districts provide vital functions in California. However, each type of special district is authorized by its own section of state code, and this has led to disparities in the standard of compensation for the members of the Board of Directors of special districts. This bill establishes one standard and parity for all types of special districts. I want to thank you and your staff for working with me on the bill. I'm happy to accept the amendments. I think they make the bill better.
Thank you so much, Mr. Assemblyman. We're grateful. We'd like to be able to open up to those who would like to be able to offer testimony. We can have special districts.
Chair, members of the committee, Dylan Gibbons of the California Special Districts Association. I've narrowed my comments down to 15 minutes.
Oh, hey, hi, Dan. Mr. Gibbons has been here all morning, so thank you.
I'll just hit some bullet points. Modest compensation, level of uniformity, no more than 6 meetings, maintains local flexibility for districts to determine the number of meetings, and the local districts are able to determine if the additional meetings are necessary or justified. With that, I encourage your aye votes.
Thank you so much, sir. We welcome you.
Thank you, Chairman McGuire and committee members for the opportunity to testify on this bill, and also thank you, Assemblymember Obernolte, for authoring it. My name is Stefan Jaskulak. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District.
We're going to have you just move the mic a little closer to your mouth. I apologize. Thank you, sir.
Also known as MidPen. Thank you. Over the last 2 years, our board has deliberated the issue of increased compensation, which is driven largely by the recognition that this has not changed in the past 34 years, even though our district has changed significantly. Since '84, our budget has grown from 14 million to 73 million. Our land holdings have grown from 18,000 acres to 63,000 acres, and our constituent population has also grown significantly. In the face of these changes, our board members are working harder than ever to maintain effective oversight of the district and to stay connected with their constituents. Each board member attends between 5 to 10 meetings a month that would be considered compensable, as we define them by our publicly ratified board policy. As we continue to grow through land acquisition and increased public engagement, AB 2329 will help ensure that our board members are compensated fairly for their efforts and that we will continue to attract top-tier board candidates. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much, and please pass our thanks to everyone at MidPen as well. Ms. Hurst, we welcome you back.
Mr. Chair, thanks so much. Jean Hurst here today on behalf of the Association of California Healthcare Districts, also in support.
Thank you. I'd like to be able to see if there's anyone else in support. If you could please come forward this time. Anyone else in support? Last call. Let's see if we have anyone in opposition. If you could please advance at this time. Those in opposition. Last call. We have a motion on a floor, which is due pass as amended to the floor by Senator Bell. We'd like to be able to see if we have any questions or comments by the committee. Seeing none, Mr. Assemblyman, would you like to be able to close, please?
This is common sense legislation. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you so much. Due pass is amended to the floor by Senator Bell. Ms. Lanchester, roll call, please.
McGuire.
Aye.
McGuire, aye. Wynn. Bell. Bell, aye. Hernandez. Hernandez, aye. Hertzberg. Lara. Morlock. Morlock, aye. 4-0.
Currently enjoys a 4-0, Mr. Obernolte, and we're going to keep that roll open and allow folks to add on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our witnesses. Ladies and gentlemen, he's coming to us from the city by the bay. We have Assemblymember Chu, who is here. We have 2 items that he's going to be presenting. The first one is item number 8, AB 2184, and then he's going to be presenting AB 2578. He'll start with item number 8. We welcome the good Assemblyman to the committee. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Colleagues, this first bill, AB 2184, would allow immigrants to start and run businesses by requiring local governments that license businesses to accept a California driver's license, an individual tax ID number, or a municipal ID. We all know that the economic success of our state has been built by our immigrant workers and entrepreneurs. At this time, 1 out of 3 small business owners are immigrants, and in recent years, 45% of all new businesses were founded by immigrants, but unfortunately, half of the cities in our state require an applicant for a business license to provide a social security number, which has been a barrier to many Californians seeking economic opportunity. This bill builds on previous state laws and is consistent with federal law, which authorizes states to make professional and commercial licenses available to immigrants regardless of status. We have provisions also to ensure the privacy of individuals. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to our witnesses.
Thank you so much. We have a motion on the floor by the Chair of Transportation and Housing here. Thank you so much, sir. We're going to ask our witnesses for testimony. If you could please introduce yourselves, first and last organization. You have 2 minutes, each of you. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chairman McGuire and members of the Senate Governance and Finance Committee. My name is Jenny Chia, and I'm with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area, a co-sponsor of AB 2184. The Lawyers Committee is committed to ensuring civil rights in the economy, especially as it relates to removing barriers for small businesses and expanding access to entrepreneurship. This bill is very important to the immigrant business owner clients we work with and to partner organizations across the state, including in Central Valley, where many localities require Social Security numbers on local business license applications. This forecloses the opportunity for many immigrants to formalize their businesses or makes them dependent on others for making business filings. AB 2184 will provide economic opportunities for these immigrants whose rights are threatened by the current federal administration, while bringing us in closer alignment with California state laws that seek to integrate them into civic life. Immigrants bring innovation and cultural diversity to our economy through local entrepreneurship, while often providing goods and services tailored to local needs. This bill would therefore provide local benefits as well. Currently, the local regulatory environment creates a confusing, inconsistent patchwork for immigrant business owners. AB 2184 will go a long way to removing systematic barriers for immigrant Californians, will lay the groundwork for long-term economic inclusion, and will contribute to our state's continued economic recovery. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ma'am, welcome. If you could please give us first and last and organization.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Gina Da Silva, Government Affairs Director for the California Immigrant Policy Center. We were proud to co-sponsor these efforts to remove barriers to business ownership by clarifying that other forms of government ID may be provided at the time of application for a local business license. It's unfortunate that these barriers continue to exist, and they really run counter to the efforts the state has made to strengthen our workforce and ensure that Californians have an opportunity to support themselves and their families. This is a common sense approach to advance more inclusive economic opportunity and uplift the strong entrepreneurial spirit of our immigrant families. We thank Assemblymember Chu for his leadership, and we urge your support for this effort towards justice, inclusion, and economic opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you, for all of your hard work along with the Assemblymember. We now would like to be able to open it up to see if anyone else would like to be able to speak in support. The ACLU has been hanging out all morning. We're grateful. Thank you so much. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you for having me back. Nick Lee on behalf of the ACLU of California in support.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. We'd like to be able to see if there's anyone else in support. If you could please advance at this time, those in support. Last call. We'd like to be able to see if there's anyone opposed. If you could please come forward. Last call for opposed. Let's bring it back to committee to be able to see if we have any questions or comments. Senator Morlock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chu, I'm just concerned about the underground economy. So if you do not have a Social Security number, then how do you file an income tax return?